Hi, this is Johnny K, and you're listening to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Amy J.
Welcome to Chasing Dreams podcast with Amy J. Amy believes that realizing a life without regrets is achieved by taking chances, chasing your dreams, making moves, and overcoming your doubts. The Chasing Dreams podcast will help you overcome life's obstacles, believe in your potential, and inspire you to face your fears. And now here's the woman who is passionately pursuing her dreams, Amy J.
Hey Dream Chasers, this is Amy J, and thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Chasing Dreams. This is episode number 46, and I have a fun guest for you guys. And when I came across this story, it was very neat because I've never heard of this before, what he does. His name is John Kenney. He's the founder of Orlando Dueling Pianos. It was awarded the best business in the area of music for 2015 in the city of Orlando, in Florida, if you don't know. Orlando Dueling Pianos specializes in live dueling piano music for weddings and corporate events. John is also a world-renowned traveler and speaker, and he's been gracious enough to take some time out of his busy day to come and talk with us and share a little bit about what he's doing and his story. And I can't thank him enough. John, thank you so much for coming on here.
Hi, Amy. Thank you. I'm excited for this podcast. This is a really fun thing.
I mean, have you always been into pianos and music?
Yeah, I started developing a passion for music when I was very young. I would say 4 or 5 years old, but I wanted to play the violin. I don't know why. I think because I grew up on John Denver music and Kenny Rogers and stuff like that. My parents were really into country music when I was really little. So I think I wanted to play the violin, but really I wanted to play the fiddle. And then once I realized that was too expensive, I wanted to play the drums. And then once I realized that I didn't want to learn how to play the drum pads, I kind of gave up on music until high school. And then that's where I started learning, singing. I was in choir, and I learned piano.
Now, did you take formal lessons for piano, or was there like an innate talent that just had to be practiced?
I took about 6 months worth of lessons until I quit doing the lessons because I was practicing so much on my own that I figured, well, my teacher's just showing me everything that's in this book, and if I just follow the book, then I don't need to pay for lessons. So I'll just keep playing, and I'll figure it out on my own. And so that's kind of what I did. I really learned from ear, and I really only did it to try to impress the girls in my choir class.
Did it work?
Yeah, to an extent. I was sitting around. I was a football player. I ran track, and one day I saw one of the guys in choir playing the piano in the pit orchestra before the school play rehearsal, and all the cheerleaders that had come to cheer us on to play football, they were all sitting around the piano listening to him play, and I was like, "Oh, that's how you get the ladies." Okay,
that's
so
the secret, guys, you hear that?
I don't necessarily think that's always true, but my 16-year-old mind was like, "Oh, I need to learn to play the piano if I want to get a girlfriend." So.
From a female perspective, I wouldn't say it hurts though. If you could,
okay.
Saying.
I always say, guys, sing along because chicks dig a guy that can sing, and sometimes that's true. But I guess out of vain or out of my own, I need to learn how to do that now. That's probably why I started playing, and then I didn't care about girls because I fell in love with the piano. So that's kind of the long and short of it.
Well, so I learned piano years and years and ages ago, and I can't say that it was something I was very good at. And practicing for me was like torture. It was something that my parents wanted me to have a skill and whatnot, and I actually loved the guitar more than the piano, but at the time we couldn't afford it. So I learned the piano, but I can't say I loved it so much that I would always practice. So for you, it sounds like you really enjoyed it. Practicing wasn't a hardship.
We in our choir room and in our music department, I guess, because we had our choir room and our band room, and then there's this hallway in between them, and down that hallway were all these little practice rooms that we had upright pianos in. And I would stay after school and like skip football practice to like sit and play the piano for
Wow.
for hours on end, because there was always something going on after school. There were usually, musical instrument lessons, or our choir director was giving voice lessons, or there was some kind of lessons going on. So there was always something going on back there, and I could just kind of sneak into one of the rooms and just play until they started shutting the lights off. And then that was my cue to like, okay, I probably should start going home. And my parents knew that I was staying after, because I stayed after school all the time. I was constantly involved in something, whether it was sports related or the school musical or whatever. So it was just kind of agreed upon that, I just come home at 5 o'clock or whatever instead of 3 o'clock. So I would just kind of sit there and play and get lost, because I think my brain just lit up, like understanding the science of playing the piano and what it does for the brain now. It just turned on new neural pathways for me that kind of gave me something that I was really lacking in life, like confidence. And, I was probably a little bit depressed in my early teens. And then all that kind of went away when music came into my life. So it's definitely something that I would say came really natural to me, that I absolutely loved.
Well, that's amazing that it had that kind of an impact on you. And I've heard art can do that for a person.
It really can. I think there's something extremely therapeutic about it. And but plus it really helps that my high school choir and our band and everything, it was kind of like one big family of outcasts from like the rest of the school, because we weren't cool, we were in choir, we were doing music. It's like, oh, that's kind of lame. And it's like, no, actually it's really fun, and everybody here is really supportive and non-judgmental. And we had really good role models, though. Our choir director and our band director were both excellent role models for all the kids that went through their program. So a lot of credit needs to go to everything that those guys did to help everybody that went through their programs. And that's just the beginning, that's just high school.
Well, that's actually a good point. So, the one thing people face, especially teenagers, is the pressure of college and the pressure of what do you do next? I mean, did you know what you wanted to do, and did you change it to music? Was music it?
Music was it. I didn't really know going through high school what I was going to do. I just figured I was going to follow the path that everybody else followed, where you just eventually go off to college and you pick a major. And then whatever the major you pick becomes your career, your quote unquote career. So I didn't get very good grades in my senior year of high school. So college kind of never happened for me. I went to several schools of music, and this is all in Michigan, by the way. So I went to the University of Michigan. I went to Michigan State University and Central Michigan University, and I auditioned for their schools of music. And I was accepted to all of them, but I wasn't accepted to any of the academic schools because they have really high standards for their academics and their grades. So what I did, my plan was to just get a job and do like community college until I could get my grades up enough to go to the University of Michigan,
right,
or one of the other schools, but University of Michigan was my priority. And instead I played in bands and developed music, and realized that, well, maybe if I just get really good at music, then I don't actually need to go to college. So I did that for 3 years, and then I had a lot of fun along the way, and I worked a lot of different jobs, and I played a lot of music for free. But then I decided to go to broadcast school after 3 years of not going to college. So I did like an 8-month program, which was the equivalent of an entire collegiate degree, because you had to go to school 5 days a week, but your only focus was broadcasting. So I learned a lot about television and radio, and some of the technical skills that go along with that sort of thing. But, I still played music, and I met other musicians in the process, and I figured I could play music at the radio station. And so music was kind of always that center point for me.
Right. So what is broadcast school?
Broadcast school. So that's for anyone that's looking to get into TV or radio, whether it's you want to be a TV personality, or you just want to be a producer or a director at a TV station, or a cameraman. My first job out of broadcast school, was actually doing an overnight weekend shift in a small town radio station where I was a DJ, and then I ran the teleprompter at a TV station.
Wow.
So, and that paid, minimum wage. So, $5 an hour back then, which I realized, I can probably still make more money playing music.
And it's something you enjoyed. I mean, it sounds like even when you were talking about broadcast school, that, music was the center of your decisions here. Yeah,
absolutely. And it was something that I always found fascinating anyway. So I was always, I was kind of like the jack of all trades and the master of none for a very, very long time. I just learned a lot of different things because I was always fascinated with lots of different areas. But, I just kind of dabbled in them all.
And then curious, do you remember the name of your first band?
Yeah, the name of my first band, because I came up with it with I think the lead singer's girlfriend. We called it the Blue Room, and we were a 5-piece band. Yeah, the Blue Room.
Wow! And so you guys played gigs. You were at bars and food chains and stuff like that, just playing.
Yeah, so we actually started out playing like in our small town in Howell, Michigan. We have these, little crazy community festivals throughout the summer. One of them is called the Melon Fest, and it's because we have really nice cantaloupe and honeydew melons that grow in that area. So they just have this giant festival that's all about melons.
Why not?
And so we were right out of high school. Our first gig was actually playing at the Courthouse Amphitheater, where there was always free live entertainment for families. So the actual first name of the band was Live Family Entertainment because we didn't have a name when we first played that first gig. Wow. And it was just a bunch of cover tunes, it was a bunch of songs that we liked. And then that developed into, well, we're going to continue to be a band and write songs. And so we started playing house parties. And then eventually we moved on to playing in the bars and nightclubs because we were young, so we weren't really allowed to be in there until we turned 21.
Wow. So you have this life, you're surviving, right? Is that safe to say that you were surviving financially and you were kind of doing what you enjoyed? Yeah,
I was still working jobs. We were all working some sort of job, but then in the evening we got together to play music.
At some point, did you go off on your own?
Yeah, eventually, bands break up. People kind of split and go off in different directions. And so a hybrid of the band I was in turned into like 6 different bands. And I played with every single one of them, actually, because I was still friends with everybody that was in that original band. It may have even been more than that. I don't really remember. There was just so much. The Detroit music scene is absolutely exploding all the time with really talented music groups, musicians, solo artists, things like that. So we just kind of all went our separate ways and did our own thing. And eventually, I was recording with one of those bands at the University of Michigan. They have a really excellent recording studio. And our drummer was actually attending school there at that point. And somebody asked me if I've ever done dueling pianos because they heard me playing like this really large concert grand piano in the recording studio, which is there for, them to record piano music on, of course. And I said, no, I've never really thought about that. I'd never heard of dueling pianos before. So this was like 2003, like the beginning of 2003, maybe the end of 2002. And somebody said, well, here, you go down to Lansing sometime, check this place out. So I said, you know what, that sounds really fascinating. I'll try that out. And then as soon as I started looking for dueling piano bars, now many of them are popping up in the Michigan area. So that was the first time I'd actually seen it. And then...
so for those who don't know, can you explain a little bit about what dueling pianos is?
Yeah, dueling pianos is basically a circus provided by 2 musicians. It's just the wildest, craziest experience because it's a mixture of music, sing along, and comedy that really shouldn't be there. It's just a really entertaining evening. especially if you've never seen it before, you're just kind of knocked off your socks a little bit, like I was, because the guys were playing rock and roll music and it was all on piano. They were making the piano look really cool, something that I always had a hard time doing. And people were into it. They were singing along to, Bon Jovi and Billy Joel music. And then there's, just a lot of witty banter back and forth between the two guys. And sometimes there's a drum set, and sometimes somebody comes up and does some sort of bit on stage, for their birthday, so they get roasted for their birthday, or they're getting married and they're having a bachelorette party, and it's utter chaos most of the night, and it just turns into just a crazy circus of music and comedy and fun.
It's live entertainment.
Yeah, it's theater. It's really awesome. Theater. Yeah, it's one of those things where you never know what's going to happen, and you just kind of follow a structure. So I had never seen this before. There's plenty of videos of dueling piano bars on YouTube. If anybody's never heard of it and they want to check it out, or they can obviously come see the kind of thing that we do. But I was really interested in it, so I found the guy that was kind of in charge, and I left him my number, and he called me 6 months later and offered me a job. So wow. One of those things where they didn't really have an opening at that point, or he lost it, and then so I started doing the training, and all of a sudden I was making money playing music, like more money than I was making before. I would play musical theater for high schools and community theaters and things like that, and I would play the piano for their entire show, maybe as a rehearsal pianist, or orchestra conductor, things like that, and then I would play in the pit, and you would make $300 for 3 months worth of work, which when you're 21 or 22 and you're discovering music, that's awesome. You're making money playing music. That seems
like a lot.
You're like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I end up in a piano bar where we're making up to $500 a night because of tips, and the salary is very good considering the skilled task that it takes to actually be a seasoned dueling piano player.
Well, so it's definitely more than minimum wage.
It's a little bit more than minimum wage. It's a little bit more than $5.15 an hour in 1998, which is, I think that's what it was then. But you're still working in the middle of the night, so you go. I guess you go where the money is. But it all started out from like, hey, this is just kind of a fun thing, to, oh, this is a career and I can make money doing it. Oh, that's cool. All right.
So that was your thing.
That was it. I fell into, I accidentally fell into dueling pianos, and that's what my life has been for the last 14 years now.
And you've been actually doing it at one of my favorite places in the world, Walt Disney World. Yeah,
I have. It's been a life-changing experience to be in Orlando and to play at Disney World.
Now, is that something that you had always intended, or something that just kind of fell upon you?
So when I first started dueling pianos, I had actually just gotten married also. And for our honeymoon, we came to Disney World. And I came to this place called Jelly Rolls, which was the dueling piano bar. People were saying to me, hey, if you're going to Disney World, check out this place. They're the best. And they literally were. I walked in, and it was just levels of fun that I've never seen before, even from our own show. And, of course, I was still brand new. But, some of the guys that were playing that night are still there. I'm still working with them. And I've gotten to become really good friends with these guys several years later. But I was really interested in it, and I didn't know how it worked to get a job there. And it's very selective. It's kind of like auditioning for American Idol, where like, oh yeah, there's 100 guys that are going to audition, and one of them is actually going to get to work here, like that kind of thing.
Oh, that's stressful.
A little bit, but at the same time, I was like, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So fast forward in time, 6 or 7 years from that point, and somebody had said, oh yeah, there's an opening down here. So I used to work there. I'm going to go fill in for them until they find somebody. I was like, oh, well, I've always thought that would be really interesting to work there. Put in a good word for me. It's like, yeah, you're great. Of course I will. And people say that all the time. Yeah, I'll put in a good word for you.
And you don't hear anything afterwards, yeah.
No, you never hear anything. And then I was just kind of shocked when the following week I got a phone call from the owner who said, we would like to have you come down and audition. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So how does it work? He's like, well, we're here, so you figure out how to get here, and we'll see you when you come in. And I was like, oh. So you really got to put your money where your mouth is.
Right,
So I got to book a flight. I got to get a hotel room. So I had my one-day vacation to Disney World where I flew in. I auditioned. The next day I flew out.
That's something to remember.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I did enjoy the pool for the couple hours that I was at the hotel that I was at.
Way to make the most of it.
I tried. It was March, and it was still snowing in Michigan, and it was 80 degrees in Florida. So I was like, oh, this looks kind of nice. I could really see myself living here. This might be interesting. And I did not think I was going to get it. I was like, these guys hate me. They're not going to hire me. I lost my voice, so I wasn't able to sing well.
Oh, no.
I didn't really play too well because I was kind of nervous, and I left. And then I had an opportunity to go work in the Philippines, of all places. And I said, hey, look, I'm going to take this gig in the Philippines. And they said, no, don't do that. We want to hire you. Why don't you come back down here in May, and we'll wrap this thing up. And I said, oh.
Well, all right then.
So, and then I asked them years later, I was like, why did you hire me? I had the worst audition ever. And they said, well, you had a really good personality. We can develop your piano playing and all that stuff, but we can't teach having a personality. So that's why we hired you. And I was like, oh, well, very cool. I had no idea what I was actually auditioning for then, So.
Right. You thought it was just the piano, but you won because you were yourself.
I guess so. Which is something had never worked for me ever before.
Hey, the right opportunities come and you just be yourself. Sometimes things work out.
Well, I feel that's really, really interesting about that whole process is, there's a few key things that I said here where I came to Florida even for one day, and I said I could really see myself living here. And I really believe in, the power of, visualization and attaching emotion to that kind of thing, because I think that really moves you into the direction of your dreams when you're actually going out there and pursuing them. Even just from like kind of a woo-woo metaphysical standpoint, I believe that there's power in that, whether it just kind of lines you up in the right way or just makes you focused and motivated towards the thing that you really want to do. And I think because I loved Disney and I loved music, just all these things kind of played out on their own, and I didn't worry about it. I just kind of let it go, and then it kind of showed up. So I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity, because if I had not come to Disney, I would not have my own business, and I would not be actually quitting my job and going all out, and doing some amazing things that I'm about to be doing for over the next year. Congratulations.
So you're going to be leaving Walt Disney World, which I'm assuming is like a steady job of sorts. So that safety, that comfort, and you're going full out on your own.
Yeah, I've been here for 7 years, and I've really learned a lot, especially, doing things the Disney way, the attention to detail, the highest possible standard. And I've applied that stuff to my own business that I've built over the last couple of years. And now it's just time to, go out on my own and make it happen. And I've literally got, as the time that we're recording this episode, I've got 2 days left. So in 2 days, I'm going to be unemployed, but happily unemployed. I mean, I love them. I love being there, but it's kind of time to go out, get out of the nest, and go do my own thing. So this means that Orlando Dueling Pianos are going to be 24/7 you? Yeah, and I think that if I have a little bit more time to actually work on the business, then I can grow it to be even bigger than what it already is, because I've literally been building it for like a couple hours a week for the last 2 years, Can I ask a little bit about what it went into the thought process of stepping away from something that was safe and comfortable to, taking this chance? And I'm sure, given how popular, awarded Best Business in 2015, to focusing on this full time, how do you make that leap? Do you look at numbers? Do you kind of look into yourself, or what? Well, so I have a daughter who actually lives in Indiana, and because that was my first marriage. I'm actually married again. Fool me once, but no. No, my wife now is absolutely great. My ex-wife's fantastic. I have great relationships with everybody in my life. But my daughter is in Indiana full-time with her mom. She only comes to visit once every 3 months. And so because of having to work full-time, it's hard to get away. It's hard to get that time off and travel and make time for her. So that was one of my things. Like, well, how do I get her to be more in my life? Well, I need a little bit more time. Well, how do I get more time? Well, I have to make more money so that I can work less over here. And so throughout this thought process, there was always a thought of creating some sort of business. And this is just the one that works. What the businesses you're not seeing, Amy, and Amy's audience are the 50 that I tried and failed before I got here. And it's more than that, but I think I launched over like 100 different websites and tried to do some sort of business with them until they all failed and hit the ground miserably. One of them was a Disney related business, Disney tips, so to speak.
Oh, wow.
And then I couldn't handle it. It was pressured. It was confusing. And then somebody said, you're trying all these businesses. Actually, it was my friend Rob. You're trying all these businesses. Why don't you just do dueling pianos? That's what you know. And everybody else had said, why don't you just do that? That's what you're good at. So I finally said, all right, well, let's see what happens if I do this. And then, of course, it explodes and turns into the most successful thing I've ever done in my life. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm kind of an idiot for not just seeing what was obviously right in front of me. And that's what every internet entrepreneur will tell you. It's like, well, find what you're really good at and then do that. And I thought I was really good at all these other things, and I really wasn't. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, this is my job. This is what I've been doing the most. So this is what I should probably do.
Well, is that why you resisted so long? Because you thought you were good at something else rather than focusing on what you're talented at?
No, I resisted because I thought that I wanted to get out of dueling pianos. And really what it was is I wanted to get out of the late night bar scene. Because when we're playing weddings or we're playing some sort of corporate event, they usually don't go beyond midnight. So I can still get home, get a night's rest, and wake up early in the morning, which is my goal. I'm totally a morning person, and I never wake up before 10 a.m. now. And I really want to be up at 6 a.m. So anyway, that's part of it. But I felt like, I was going to be stuck doing the same kind of thing that I was doing working in all the bars. And really, it's nothing like that at all. It turns out it's actually much more enjoyable. You got to lug some equipment around, but it's still really fun. And there's that whole satisfaction of, hey, I own all this equipment and I know how to set it up and tear it down and make it sound good and look nice. And so all that stuff just kind of plays into the satisfaction of actually doing the work. Even though it's kind of like one of those businesses that you still have to work in, it's still something that I'm creating on my own terms and making people happy with. I'm making memories for people at their weddings. I'm showing them the best time of their life on the most important day of their life. So,
which can be a stressful time, and the fact that you're bringing that kind of joy to their lives and to the people that are there for them, that's awesome.
And that's totally the goal, is to get rid of the stress for them, because the whole wedding planning process is very stressful. Trust me, I've done it twice. You can only take so much stress. But, when you can cut some of those things out and you can give them something to really look forward to, they're extremely grateful. And it's nice to see that you can make people feel good. And that's really what my company and my whole philosophy on life is. We just want to bring the fun and make people feel really good and forget about, their worries and their strife. I'm quoting the bare necessities from the Jungle Book, but it's true,
Well, John, how long would you say it was for you to resist before you switched over? I mean, you said the thing we don't see is the 50 failed businesses or ventures that you tried. I know myself, I'm trying a number of different things. I'm sure there are other people. How long did it take before the light bulb went out for you?
So this just happened recently because when you work for Disney, you work on a contracted basis. And so I had two contracts. The first one was for 3 years and the second one was for 4 years. And so I kind of saw this ticking clock going for the last couple of years, going, okay, well, once we get around to June 2016, we're not going to sign another contract. There's not going to be a job there. But it wasn't until last week where I actually totally broke out That's something my daughter says. I don't know if anybody else says that. It's
Broke out.
it's like the past tense of freak. Like, I'm gonna freak out. Okay, I already broke out. Does that make sense?
Okay. I like that.
I learn things from my daughter all the time. She's 13, so she taught me that one. I kind of broke out a little bit because I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have a job. What am I going to do? Like the whole transition, and they had already hired somebody to replace me because they needed another full-time player. And I thought, I'm so easily replaceable. Oh my God, I can't. I'm not going to have work. I can't come back if I change my mind. And what if I totally fail? I'm not going to have a place to come back to. And I just lost my mind. And I felt really hurt. And I felt really frustrated. And I felt like I didn't really matter. And the next day, I just realized all that was really just my brain saying, look, we're about to go do something different. Get ready. But I totally looked at it the wrong way. It was really, really scary. Lots of fear for several days just kind of set in. And then there was this extreme tipping point the day before Memorial Day where I was like, this is reality. Oh my God, I'm not going to work here anymore. This is really scary. This is all I've known for 7 years, and working in bars, that's all I've ever known for like 20 years now. And then it took some talking to my wife and her parents, actually, because they were here visiting. And I realized that, you know what, it's just because I haven't done this yet. And as soon as I do, if I actually sit back and look at everything I've got set up in place, the next 6 months are going to be fine. They're going to be better because I'm going to be working less and still have money coming in. So once I was able to kind of sit back and look at, well, what's the game plan over the next few months, then the freaking out kind of stopped, and I was able to breathe and actually look forward to it. So I'm actually super excited about it. But at first, yeah, it was really, really scary.
So now that you have this, I guess you would call acceptance, do you have a sense of peace of mind?
Absolutely. I'm totally looking forward to it. In fact, I've even been told, hey, we might need you to come fill in a couple of times back over here at Jelly Rolls, once in a while. Are you going to be open to that? I said, yeah, if I pop in, once a month and, play a night with you guys, that I would actually really look forward to that. Maybe I'll come in with a way better attitude and, just have it be something to look forward to rather than, oh, this is my job I'm stuck in. Like I get to go do something really fun.
Right. And I find it really interesting that the change in perspective there, right? You're talented. Dueling pianos is something you fell in love with, but it kind of turned into a job, something you didn't look forward to necessarily, but when you were doing your own business, you did enjoy it.
Yeah, I found ways to enjoy it. Actually, when I first came to Disney, I really enjoyed it because it was really a whole new world of how dueling pianos works. And just, really the concept of dueling pianos itself is just super fun. But when you add in like all your favorite Disney music and you're doing a family-friendly show, and it takes a little bit more brain power, a little bit more creativity, and you have people that are supporting you and helping you get better. They're coaching you through it and just turning you into a better musician and a better entertainer. It was something really to look forward to, and now it's like, here's the next thing to look forward to, and I'm always finding new things to love about what I do. And I think that's something that's really important when you're going after your dreams. You always have to find something new about what you're doing, some sort of new realization that keeps you excited about it, because it can get mundane, it can get minutia, and if you don't stay passionate about it, if you don't stay excited about it, you'll end up quitting it.
I think that's really important. I never thought about that like that, but you make a great point on how you can have a dream and it can change where you got to keep it fresh.
Yeah, totally. If you don't, it hurts, and you kind of lose a sense of purpose. Because I've done that. I think maybe we've all done that, where we just kind of lose that sense of purpose of what are we really doing this for. There's a really great book. It's called Start With Why. I forget who the author is, but it's just the concept of knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And then I think that part of the why is to because you love it. And so you have to remind yourself that you love it. And that's why it's good to have those little things pop up once in a while, something new to look forward to make it fresh again, to make you go, oh yeah, I still do love playing the piano.
Right, because I'd hate to think that something you love get turned into something you hate when really it's not that. It's just the circumstances that you're doing it in.
Yeah, you get bored, and then it's like, well, then why am I really doing this? And so, yeah, absolutely.
Just becomes that. Well, John, thank you so much for sharing the story, because I think hearing how you went through and what you went through at Walt Disney and how you decided to go on your own full time and still keep your dream. It's not like you've changed it. It's still your dream. It's just how you're using it that's changed. I think it's important for people to hear.
Yeah, I think it's a really kind of a fun story. The more I've been telling it to people, the more I realize, you know what? I mean, it's just my life. But I find that sharing your circumstances and the kind of stuff that you're going through, the challenges you face, might actually really help somebody. And so that's why I do things like come on shows like this, where we've got excellent hosts who are really trying to do the same thing. They're trying to inspire other people. I hope that maybe this kind of struck a chord with somebody, not to just use a musical term there, but I mean, literally, I really want to help other people do the same thing. And I know you do too. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. But before I let you go though, John, one thing we try to do with everyone is try to get a little feedback from them. You know, what is one thing, whether it be a resource, a piece of advice, a quote, if you will, that you would recommend to someone who's chasing their dreams, especially after your experience?
The piece of advice I would get is, first of all, know why you're doing it. Know why you're going after your dreams, because sometimes your dreams can change. You think you really want one thing, and then the further down the path you get, you realize maybe that dream has shifted a little bit. Maybe it's now something a little bit differently. So really know why you want it, not just the what. The result is important, but knowing why you want the result is more important, I think. And enjoy the ride, because the journey is really what it's all about. It feels like it's about getting to the destination, but really just kind of sit back and take in the people that you meet along the way, because they're not always going to be there. They're not going to be there forever. You're not going to see them every day all the time. And find what you appreciate about all those people, and know that they're going through something too. Just really have empathy for those people, and love them as much as you can, and be an inspiration to them, and don't react. Take in the moments. Be silent every day just for a little while, and just enjoy life along the way. Find something to love.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Amy.
And that was John Kenney. What an amazing guy, right? Dueling pianos? How cool is that? And I hope you guys listen to what he's saying. Figure out your why. You need to know your why. Everything kind of circle around your why. Okay? So you can find all the show notes and any of the links mentioned today, as well as a little bit more about John, on the show notes page for this episode at chasingdreamshq.com/episode 46. That's episode 46. Until next time, Dream Chasers, keep chasing.
Thank you so much for listening to Chasing Dreams. Amy would love to connect with you and hear all about your pursuit of chasing your dreams. Connect with her on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram via @ChasingDreamsHQ. Or you can find Amy on Twitter @AmyJ21. That's AIMEEJ21. Be sure to visit headquarters over at ChasingDreamsHQ.com for more inspiration, motivation, and resources to help with your own dream chase. We hope you'll join Amy next week, and until then, keep chasing.